Hello, my name is Shannon Williams, and I'm a music teacher in Athens City Schools. I recently finished my PhD in Instructional Technology at Ohio University and plan to graduate this spring. In this presentation, I'll talk about technology in music education. I'll start by explaining why we as educators should focus on creation versus consumption. I'll offer some insight into pedagogical strategies that I've developed in my own teaching, and then I'll share some suggestions for ways that teachers and students can use technology in the music classroom. Let's start with creation versus consumption. When I create tech activities for students, I try to always include an opportunity for the students to create something. The product isn't always terribly creative, but it should eventually lead to something creative. Often, they're developing skills that will allow them to be more creative later on. These lessons or activities are often part of a bigger picture or project that requires several steps. By scaffolding the learning, the intent is to support and develop students' confidence so that they'll feel empowered to create. This is in contrast to consumption, where students are focused on watching or listening to someone else perform. Of course, it's important to study other work, but only as it supports the ability to also create. Here are some of the things that I think about when I use technology to deliver instruction. First is scaffolding. I work really hard to have my students build upon past experiences. I try to break down the objective into easy-to-digest parts so that students don't feel overwhelmed. It's easy to get lost in the navigation and scope of what the technology can do, so I try to find manageable amounts of information to share. When delivering in small chunks that build upon each other, students are given time to build their confidence. This will increase engagement and retention. In an effort to keep the learning chunks manageable, I count the clicks. I make slideshows that summarize the clicks with pictures of the pages or buttons that they should click on to navigate through the app. When students are developing skills and learning new apps, I try to keep directions between 3 to 5 clicks. More than that, and the students will likely get lost in the navigation of the app. Once they've arrived at their creative destination, I don't worry about the clicks anymore. At that point, the clicks become repetitive and it doesn't really matter. All of my lessons are based on the standards. Attention to the standards keeps me accountable and focused. It justifies and supports innovative instruction and keeps me from feeling overwhelmed about what to teach and when to choose something new. When I design lessons with the standards first and let the tech follow, the result is more intentional and thoughtful. I also find that I need fewer apps and devices to achieve my goals. There's a lot of novelty apps out there that can be fun. However, if they don't allow you to address the standards, they'll only serve as a distraction. If chosen wisely, technology can transform your teaching. For years, I struggled to find solutions to instructional design challenges. Technology has allowed me to deliver a higher quality experience that is more efficient and oftentimes more engaging. I do this by trying to move beyond simply substituting technology for a traditional teaching strategy. I try to consider the SAMR model created by Dr. Ruben Peneturda. The model suggests that technology can be integrated at different levels like substitution, augmentation, modification, and ultimately redefinition. At the substitution level, technology just replaces what you might have used in the past. For instance, you might display lyrics on a smartboard instead of giving each student a paper copy. Or instead of writing out a concert evaluation on paper, you write it out in a Google Doc. The experience or activity that the student is doing stays the same. A tech tool was just substituted for delivery of the content instead. Augmentation is similar, but with added features. In the earlier example, using the smartboard, now you might write on the lyrics instead of just having them read them. Maybe you could circle an area of difficulty during a rehearsal. Augmentation enhances the experience, but it doesn't necessarily change what or how the students will learn. When reaching these transformative levels of integration, the technology will allow students to perform entirely new tasks. For example, students can use an online DAW or digital audio workstation to compose music using non-traditional notation. To take this experience even further, once the song was created, it could be shared with students in another school in your district and included in a group composition. This type of collaboration would never have been possible without the advancements in technology integration. Not all activities will reach transformative levels of integration, nor should they. Substitution and augmentation can make many required tasks more efficient and effective. Modification and redefinition might be reserved for special projects or unique experiences. There's a place for all levels of integration in the music classroom. In the end, it's important to balance the integration of technology with traditional music making. Digital music is just one of the many methods we can share with our students. It's important to differentiate between a teacher's use of technology and when students are using technology. Teachers use technology to research and find answers to questions. Creating a PLN or a personal learning network is an incredibly powerful use of tech for professional development. Social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook offer a wealth of support and inspiration. The value of connecting with educators both near and far cannot be underestimated. We can also use tech to help communicate with tools like email, newsletters, web pages, and even social media channels. Of course, we can make our own teaching materials too, like slideshow presentations, worksheets, and notated scores. And now many teachers are discovering their ability to create instructional video content. These videos allow students to learn more independently both in the classroom and at home. And let's not ignore the importance of being able to manage and operate other electronic equipment. Recording equipment, speakers, soundboards, and even lighting equipment all play a role in a music learning experience. The more we as teachers understand about how to operate and maintain this equipment, the more self-sufficient we can become. While students can benefit when a teacher uses technology to enhance their teaching, they benefit the most when they learn to use the technology themselves to make and share music. They can consume music when they listen and watch videos. This is an important experience for students and one that allows them to understand and appreciate music making. Technology will allow students to create on a level that was not possible before. They can make orchestral arrangements on a classroom Chromebook, scores for a movie, remix a favorite song in their own style, or record a podcast with original music in their intros and outros, and so much more. When they learn how to be creators, they will become more informed consumers. It's my hope that through creation, they can become more discerning consumers, allowing our media landscape to advance. Once students have created content, they're going to need to share their ideas. And this can be done with a variety of tools like word processors, video and audio recording, and other productivity tools. Now I want to take a little bit of time to share some specific lessons and activities that I've done with my students that I think address some of the issues that I raised in this discussion. I'll feature activities with Google Songmaker, BandLab, Makey, Google Suite, and Flipgrid. We'll start with the Google Songmaker. In this lesson, I'm teaching students how to create rhythm patterns in Google Songmaker. I started the lesson off by talking about what melody even is, so we had a basic understanding of that before moving forward. And then to scaffold, I built on previous lessons. I reminded them of a melody that we had sung the week before, and how in the past we'd also put in rhythm patterns into the Quaver QBeat app, which is similar to a lot of the other digital audio workstation grid formats that are used in the drum machines. So I teach my students how to enter rhythm patterns in this app first, and then we transfer that skill into other apps later on. This is one of those lessons. So I copied and pasted a picture from the Google Songmaker page onto a Google slide. And in this way, I can draw on it and talk about how they're going to notate things later. So I get my pen out on my smartboard and I color in the blocks that match these rhythm patterns over here. And I demonstrate to the kids in slow motion how they're going to notate these rhythm blocks into the Songmaker. And then I show them what their activity is going to look like. Their assignment was to arrange these blocks in a strip and then notate them out in the Songmaker below. And I pointed out to him that each measure changes color. So the first block is going to go in white and the next in gray, back to white again. Before sending them on their way, I showed them the navigation steps on a separate slide. I took screenshots of each click that they were going to need to make and try to keep it between 3 to 5 clicks. In this case, I had 4. They first went to the web page we start in Canvas, our LMS, so they click on that to get them to the web page. And then once they got here, I asked them to bookmark it so that in the future, we don't even have to go to Canvas anymore, and that will eliminate a click. By bookmarking it, they're going to have a little button on their bookmark bar. So after they've bookmarked, then they're going to click on Melody Blocks. That's the lesson I prepped for them. And then this slideshow will open up. And I've shared the slideshow with them by publishing my Google slide to the web so that when it opens up, it fills the whole screen and they don't get lost in the navigation because they don't see the rest of the internet anymore. It takes their toolbar off. So once they've got this open, then they're going to click on this link that's on the first page in the SongMaker, and that will open up their version of the SongMaker. And then at that point, there's given directions, and I put this slide up on the screen. Arrange your blocks. I remind them their tasks that they're supposed to do, and then enter these into the SongMaker using only the red blocks. That's going to make it a rhythm pattern, and eventually we'll turn that into a melody. While they're working, I leave this screen up on the board to remind them how the different types of notes are notated. These are the little sayings that I use for each rhythm pattern so that we can refer to them quickly, like put a T-berry in, and this is how they notate a T-berry. T-berry, T-berry in Google SongMaker. So they're working away on this, and then in the next lesson, we're gonna, they don't save this first draft. This was just an exercise for them so that I know that they learned how to put rhythm patterns into Google SongMaker. Then the next lesson, they come back and they do it again. They put a rhythm pattern in, and then I stop them and I talk to them about pitch. The pitch and melodies can move in stepwise motions, they can move in skips, or they can move in leaps. And then we're going to take this pattern that they wrote out and we're going to adjust the blocks so that they move in steps, skips, or leaps. This is going to make their melody composition intentional. In my experience, too many times when they use Google SongMaker, they just throw blocks up on the screen that look cool. They're playing with the rainbow colors, but they're not really thinking about the way things sound. So by having them start with rhythm patterns first and establishing something musical, then we can adjust it to create a melody from there. But the foundation of the melody that they create is up here in the blocks first. So then this will be their final project that they will submit to me for a grade or evaluation. They're going to make a melody. And I've got the Google SongMaker page set to pentatonic. It's here. I have the SongMaker app set to pentatonic. I went into settings and changed the scale to pentatonic. And then I split the beats into 4 so that we could do 16th notes. I'm working with 4th graders in this lesson and they're learning 16th notes. So I wanted to have that in there. And 4 bars is as long as this project needs to be. So I don't adjust any other settings. So once everything looks good, then they take and arrange their blocks on their table and they start to notate those rhythm patterns in first. And then we'll go in and adjust the melodies according to steps, skips, and leaps. That's how I'm using Google SongMaker for one of my activities. There's a lot of other possibilities with this app. I really like it a lot. It has so many settings, options in here that can control and limit where the kids go so that they're not just throwing random stuff on the screen, especially by changing the scale to pentatonic or limiting how long they can play the part, and then giving them a link to that page so that they get a template. You can do that by just putting in a couple of notes, and then when you save it, it gives you a link. So you copy this link, and that will serve as a template. When you share this link with the kids, then when they open up their SongMaker, it's going to have the settings that you saved. So you can kind of control and give them some creative boundaries. The next app I want to share is BandLab. And in this lesson, we're going to talk about an energy template that the students use to create a song in BandLab. This was inspired by a video that I found on YouTube by Mix Majors Electronic Music School. And in that lesson, he talks about changing the energy to create a song in BandLab. And I ran with that and created a slideshow and more of a structured lesson so that I could guide the students through creating his template and give them more instruction instead of just watching the YouTube video to do it. My students are at an age where they need a little more guidance than being self-taught in a YouTube video. So I created this step-by-step process. This is going to use or address the standard in 6th grade of describing and distinguishing characteristics of music forms. So even though this isn't one of the traditional forms, it's energy, it's still a way to organize a song. So, for historical periods, it's a current form that somebody is using, but I still think it relates a lot to how composers use form and templates to guide their composition. So let's dig into that. So in this lesson, I start by guiding students again through the navigation and getting them to the page. And to do that, I give them the clicks, not more than 3 to 5. They start on the Canvas page, just like my other students, or in the other lesson we did, where they click on the banner, and then that takes them to the web page that I made for them. And at this point, I also ask them to bookmark it so that they too can get back to this page quickly, saving us a click later on. And then they click on the energy template link that opens up the assignment for them. Once they get there, they're going to see this slideshow on their screen. So I keep using these screenshots to guide their navigation so I don't lose them along the way. And this is a picture of their exact screen that they'll see. At this point, I ask them to click on the icon for BandLab that'll take them to the login page, and I'm having them log into the EDU version of BandLab. There's 2 versions. The public one is much more open and has social features to it and things that I don't want my students to participate in, at least under my supervision. The EDU version is locked down, and it also allows you to deliver and accept assignments and give feedback. So if you are going to use BandLab, I highly recommend using the EDU version. At this point, they log in, click the login button, and then they use their Google button to log in so that they don't have to remember passwords and that sort of thing. When they leave this page, they're going to go to BandLab, and then they're going to come back and work between 2 tabs. So when they click on the BandLab link and it opens up BandLab, they see this page, and then I give them instructions on this slide on which ones to click. So they're going to start by clicking the folder and then the mix editor and then the loop button. And once they do all those things, folder, mix editor, and loop button, then they're going to be ready to compose. But I want them to go back and use the recipe card or the template that I've made for them in here. So they're going to navigate back and forth between 2 tabs so they can get to the recipe that looks like this. This is sitting in their slideshow, and they can get to it by clicking anytime they see the cookbook. And I've strategically placed those in there so that when they go from one page to the next, I know that they just left this page and this will be there waiting for them. So they clicked on that, and it takes them to the song recipe. And now we're going to search for some loops in the search, and I'm teaching them how to use the search feature and all of those kind of tricks as we go along. In this case, we're going to search for underground, and it's going to pull up different packs. And we're using this pack according to what I saw in Mix Major. And then they just go through and they choose each one of these particular loops, and they drag it into their workspace. When they're done, I have a screenshot for them that they're working toward making this on theirs, and I'm trying to guide them along step by step. Right now they're not being creative, they're learning the skill of how to make a song, and then later on I'm going to let them choose their own blocks, but I want to give them a template. So as an exercise, we're doing it exactly the way mine looks, so they know how to search. They're learning the how to use BandLab through this exercise, and then later they can be more creative. So they're going to put these exact loops in. I let them work on that for a while. When everybody is done, actually what I tell them to do, if they finish at their table, I have them in groups of like 4 or 5 students. If they finish at their table, they're supposed to put the lid of their Chromebook down and help somebody else at their table. When they help each other, they should be telling each other what to do and not touching their Chromebooks for them, because a lot of times kids, when they help, they want to do it for them. So I remind them that if you're helping somebody, you're teaching them how to do it. You're not doing it for them. So once everyone at their table has all of their lids down, then I know I'm ready to give the next instruction. So then I tell them on step 2 that they're going to copy and paste all of their blocks up to measure 32. So again, working on skills. When they're done with this one, they're supposed to go up and save it with a new name. so that later on we can come back to this project. That happened in day 1. In a 40-minute period, we got that far. The next time they came, I talked to them about this, how we're going to adjust it and carve the song out to make it into an actual song. When they're at this stage, it's just a wall of sound. It isn't actually a song. It's just almost noise because it does the same thing for 32 bars, and that's not very interesting. So we're going to carve it out according to this model that Mixed Major had, and start with lower energy, build up, come down, and back up, and so on. And when they're done, it looks like this. We're going to go in and take out some of the bits. So at the beginning, they start with just 2 voices, build up to 3, 4, and then at 5, take an energy break by going back down to 2 with a little boost, and then finally fading out back down to just 2 voices at the end. They really like the sound of it, so they think they're making a cool song, even though they haven't been very creative yet. But the next step is to explain to them the different voices that they have, that they used in their earlier project, that they had what they didn't realize at the time, but I'm going to explain in the second lesson, is that this first track was a drum beat. They may have noticed it was a drum, but not realized the importance that you got to have a drum, a hat, and a bass as your foundation. And then you can add some sort of high sound. So they're going to go out and get creative in what they define as a high sound. And then the other sound is just something way out there, a sound effect, whatever they want it to be. So at this point, when they're doing their own version of it, they can do a whole different style if they want to. But they're just going to start with a drum, a hat, and a bass. And by giving them some boundaries, it keeps them from just throwing stuff up on the screen, which is what often happens when I let them loose on something like BandLab or Songmaker or any of these creative apps. When they're done arranging, then I'm going to ask them to listen to it, make any adjustments before they export it and share it. And then we're going to share it with each other, and students will give each other feedback so that they can go in and make further adjustments before they call their project completely done. The next lesson or activity that I want to share uses a makey-makey, and we're going to make a human piano. In this lesson, the standard we're going to cover is reading, writing, and performing melodies in pentatonic. I start by introducing the makey-makey to students. Makey-makeys are small circuit boards that, when connected to your computer, can control the computer just like a mouse or a keyboard would. But with these, you can hook wires up to these inputs that are shown here in this picture and attach them to anything that conducts electricity. So for example, a banana, because it has water in it, conducts electricity. Humans conduct electricity. So when you plug something into the spacebar input right here, whatever you touch that sends a signal to that space input will trigger the spacebar of the keyboard and then tell the computer what to do. So if you have a piano, for example, online that uses the space bar or the click or the arrows for input, then it will trigger that keyboard online to play whatever pitch is attached to it. It's sort of complicated, but there's lots of videos online that demonstrate how to use a makey-makey. I have pictures here of some of my students creating their own devices, their own controls. And you can see here in the picture that there is a little piano keyboard that is controlled by, make this bigger here, controlled by the arrow keys and the space and the click. So every time they touch the Play-Doh that's attached to the circuit board, it sends a signal through the MIDI cable or the USB cable into the computer, and it triggers one of these keys. So whatever's attached to the wires will play notes, and they can invent their own type of piano. And then over here in this picture, we've got aluminum foil that's hooked up and clipped onto the wires that go into the circuit board. And every time they touch the metal bits, it'll trigger the piano to do something. You can find videos about makey-makey on YouTube that will show you how all of these things work. And here you can see a picture that they've got the makey-makey attached to a bunch of bananas, and they made a banana piano. It's super fun. So on the first day that I give them the makey-makey, these are the things we cover. It's really just about setup and making it work. And that takes a whole class period of getting everybody online and plugged in. And troubleshooting. And that's one of the biggest things I learn in this is how to troubleshoot. After that, I send them off to the makey-makey page where they have a collection of apps of things that can be triggered by the makey-makey. They have a lot of music instruments. So there's tons for music teachers to do on here. Pianos, drums, a lot of different kinds of pianos, things that allow you to sample sounds, so you could put your own sounds into the computer, which is a really cool idea, that they could control sound effects with the Makey Makey, and add that to a video experience, or creativity's possibly. After they're done hooking it up, I send them to the Makey Makey apps page. And on this page, there's a collection of apps that will work well with the Makey Makey. The Makey Makeys can be used on any web page, but the company Makey Makey is hosting a collection of apps that they know will work well and kind of match the inputs of the design of the Makey Makey circuit board. So here you can see that this Makey Makey is going to use the arrow keys and the space bar just like the circuit board has. It just makes it quicker and easier for the kids to hook up. So they're going to play around with their different materials and make things with it, and experiment on that first day just till they feel comfortable and confident with it. And then the next time they come, I give them an actual challenge that they're going to play a human piano, and they hook each other up. It takes 5 kids, and each kid holds on to a little clip. And then the controller person who is in charge is going to touch their flesh on them somewhere, their forehead or their nose or the top of their hand. But every time they touch a kid, it will trigger a note on the keyboard. I give them a song like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star to play. So I've given them something specific. They start by just making noise, but then I try to have them actually play a song so that I'm meeting the standard. And by including a song with actual notation, I use technology still to teach them something. So here's just a whole bunch of different ideas for ways that this thing can be set up. It's so fun and so over the top. There's so many ways that this thing could go that you really can't go wrong by getting some Makey Makeys. You don't need one for every student. They work best in partners, even better in small groups of like 3 or 4 kids. You can do a lot with the Makey Makey. So if in an average classroom, if you just have 4 or 5 of these, you could do awesome things. Next up, I want to share how I use Google Suite to have kids make listening maps of famous compositions. The standard covered in this is identifying and responding to simple music forms. They're going to outline the form of a famous piece of music using a slideshow timed to the music. So to start this lesson off, I start out by giving them directions for what they're going to do. On each slide, they will pick a picture that they think represents that section of the music. And then there's timings already on. I give them a template. So the slideshow actually starts with most of these slides blank, like this. And then they add their pictures in, their collection of pictures, so that when they're all done, I have it preloaded with the sound clip and the timings on them. And then they can have a clock going on the side if another student is next to them, or they could put a timer on in the corner if they watch the clock on the bottom. But at 26 seconds, they're going to advance the slide. I've also included all the times in this opening slide so they can see an overview of it before they get started. Then they go into presentation mode by clicking slideshow, and they start the music. And at 26 seconds, they'll advance the slide. By doing this, they're going to show that they know the form of the piece and when this section ends. Just using simple arrow keys or the space bar, they advance the slide to the next section. They could do this with much smaller sections too. That's harder for kids to recognize, and it makes it a more advanced slideshow. But the possibilities of this can start very basic like this, where I only had 6 slides, all the way up to 100 slides. As fast as they want it to move, it could almost turn into a stop motion type experience for them. But in the very first early ones, I try to keep it really simple and have just a few slides that outline a basic song. I go over the song with them. We practice listening to the song, and this could be used as an assessment, a summative assessment at the end that you could use to test them as like a final project that they can demonstrate that they can perform the form of a song. The final activity I'll share uses Flipgrid to create a listening journal. And in this exercise, we're going to address the standard justifying personal preferences for certain musical pieces. It's a 5th grade standard. And in this one, they're going to use Flipgrid to share their ideas about a particular piece that they listen to. So in this activity, I've gone to Flipgrid and I've set up a prompt for the students to read about first, and then they're going to listen to a performer, and I just linked a YouTube video to it. And when they're finished, they'll go on and they will create a video response where they'll talk about and express their opinions, their preferences, and their things that they do and don't like. So I asked them to share 2 things they do like and 1 thing that they would like to see different in the video. Then that gives them an opportunity to say if it wasn't their favorite kind of music or something like that. And then I'll watch the videos. If they're all appropriate, I might share them so that people can respond to a video that they already watched. This platform, if you haven't used it, has a lot of control features on it where you can keep it very private, where only the teacher sees it, all the way up to completely open and public, or limited to just classroom responses. But it allows people to have a dialogue online without necessarily being face-to-face when that happens. Of course, it's great for at-home learning and online teaching situations, but it can be great in the classroom too, where kids could go on and respond to 2 people in the classroom. Surprisingly, the audio is really good, even if there's noise in the background, and it really does just pick up the one kid who's in front of the computer. So even if you've got a lot of activity in the room, they could still get on and give responses to other students. Now that I've shared some of my lessons ideas with you, I wanted to share with you some other people who have great ideas too. Here's a collection of books that I have recently put into my own library that I found super useful. The authors are also worth following, so looking up any of these names and finding them on Twitter or Facebook, Instagram, all of the usual social media places. Many of their feeds are really impressive and come out with a lot of good stuff quite frequently, but their books are also really good. So I highly recommend any of these books. They were all really good, definitely worth the purchase. And if you're at all interested in using technology in the classroom, this is a great place to start. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at danner@3rings.com. Thanks for watching.